All right, what's going on? So, my last video was a very short one, and it was showing and explaining what I'm going to be looking into. Just since I had a viewer comment, very, very sweet comments, very nice, saying they're enjoying my stuff and they binge watch my stuff. Which, after looking at the list of things they want me to talk about, she might get a little, if that's the kind of stuff she enjoys looking at with what she wants me to talk about. I don't talk about a lot of that stuff, so you know, but I hope she doesn't get upset or doesn't like my opinion or whatever the case is. I hope we don't just disagree with each other and she decides to stop watching me. However, there's a good chance that might happen. But I'm going to be completely honest here. Like, I had never even heard of chakra removal. I don't even know what the fuck this is. So, my understanding of your chakras is we have glands in our body. And we also have meridian points if you're doing anything like Taoist or even like pranayama, yogi stuff. Kind of mixes with this because I do the Microcosmic Orbit religiously, to use a funny term. But I do that religiously, you know, and the point of that is the lower Danantian, the one in the navel center, we release energy from there and we circle it around our body by the using of your tongue through visualization. You basically control the chi around you that is released from your Danantian. And that's one thing I really enjoy doing. Now, once again, there's 7 chakras in your body, potentially more, because there's the Earth Star Chakra, which is within the Earth itself, which opens up when you open up your Saturn Chakra. The Earth Star Chakra is like this connection between your ground chakra, your root chakra rather, and it opens up. It doesn't mean you necessarily control it or do anything with it, so maybe technically it's not even a chakra, who knows. But there is something there, and there is something to that because I felt that. I get, that's where, anyways, it doesn't matter. But chakra removal and assuming that chakras are something that was implanted in you is something that I'm new to learning, so I don't want to really give my opinion yet without having looking at the both sides of the argument and what this is all about. But right off the top of my head, knowing what I know, knowing how using the chakra system, and not just in the way of like, okay, I gotta balance my chakras and all that. I mean, literally, these are energies within your body. So, I do magic. I do fucking magic. And every day of the week is a different chakra. So, whenever I'm calling on the moon, my subconscious mind, and I'm saying I'm grateful to the moon for such and such, well, it's not necessarily the one up in the sky I'm talking to. I'm not sending my intent to space. I'm using the energies within my body. I am those planets. Those planets are me. I incorporate those planets in everything I do. When I use Saturn to banish something, I'm using my ground chakra. Or sorry, I always say ground. I'm using my root chakra to banish that thing out of my life. When I'm using Jupiter to expand my finances or expand my cock, as I went into my last episode, or second last episode, that made my wife sore and not be able to have sex with me because she's never felt my cock as big as it was. And, you know, I actually grew half an inch. I'm talking to the Jupiter within my body when I'm trying to find things I'm passionate about and get artsy. And because I raise the chrism oil in my body when the moon enters my sun sign, and I abstain from sex to those 2.5, 3 days, and I have a calendar that tells me. And what my practice is and what I do with that time, I have a specific way of channeling Marsarian energy, sacral chakra energy, and I before the day I have to abstain from sex, well, the 2.5 days, give or take, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less, what I do is I meditate. In a manner of speaking, it's not always just sitting there in a meditative, but I allow let's just say I allow the information to come to me on, is there a project I have open that I could finish up that is going to best release all my creative, passionate energies to the point where I'm not going to need to have sex. Because if you're releasing your creative energy, if you're putting everything into your projects creatively and passionately, then there's no need to have sex. I think it was by Thunderwizard. Yeah, it was Thunderwizard. He was talking about, someone asked if you have to abstain from sex to raise a chrism oil. And he said, short answer, no. If you have to release, he's like, if you have to take a dump, you take a dump. You don't hold that shit in. It's beneficial. It's like same thing with that. He's like, unless you have a practice that, I think that's what he was getting at. I mean, I could be wrong, but for me anyways, what I was told and taught was, if you want to do that, you know, that's kind of what you have to do, is get rid of that energy so it doesn't back up. Because if you're still horny and you haven't got rid of all that creative energy, then, you know, you're not gonna, he says it'll just get blocked up down there and stay down there. And I think that's actual right, because there's been a few times I did this, and when I did abstaining from sex, before I used a creative hobby to put all my sexual energy into, which, by the way, when you do it right, whatever thing you're working on, it ends up becoming a masterpiece because you're putting so much energy into it. But anyways, times I didn't do it right, like I've had, it looked like semen coming out of my cock. Go to the bathroom, go to pee, it's like, what the fuck is that? And I mean, if you read stuff about certain STDs, it's like, what the fuck? I have an STD? I've literally gotten checked because of this, thinking you had an STD. It's like, I didn't fuck anybody. I'm like, I think my wife would have fucked anybody. Who the fuck knows? But no, he's like, no, you got nothing there. He's like, sometimes that happens. It's like, what do you mean sometimes that happens? I've never heard of that happening. But anyways, so then whenever Thunderwizard said that, it's like, well, maybe it does get all blocked up there when you don't do it right. Maybe that's what I was experiencing. But anyways, that's besides the point. I'm not someone strange to STDs. I've had chlamydia before, way back when I first met my wife. One of us gave it to each other. We don't know who still to this day. She had her pap test and found out she had chlamydia. So we were both very quiet and didn't talk to each other because we just got together. And so we went through who we thought it might have been each, and we agreed to not fight with each other over it, that we both made a mistake and we don't know who it was. And it was very mature how we do it. But anyways, take a pill and that shit goes away. But it's one of the easiest ones to catch, and untreated causes some problems. Now, it does cause a little bit of leakage like that, but it's a different color than the color I had. Plus, there's some painful things that go along with it and some other things. So, I really like thinking about it. Anyways, but so when it comes to chakra removal, I'm very shocked. But I'm not really shocked, actually. So, this is connected to your internal power. This is internal power. Okay, you can literally, if you understand that you're sending your intention to Jupiter and Saturn and all that, and you're not sending it to the out there in the sky, if you actually send it out there, you'll get it back, and things will happen. But you'll see that it take longer. And once again, Frederick Xavier has a video about this. He's like, people that are sending their energy way out into the universe, way out to Saturn and Jupiter, those fucking planets are far. Even Mars is right after us, but he's fucking far away from us. Even the moon is fucking like far away from us. Like, that's stupid to send it all the way out there. You don't want to do that shit. What you want to do is realize these energies are within your body. That's where you're sending it. And your subconscious mind is a link to these divine energies that are within your body. And yes, as you use them, like your Saturn can be blocked, and I'm pretty sure you could still use energy in your body. You know what I mean? But anyways, that's another story for another time. But so removing these chakras is trying to remove your connection to them, because you can't remove chakras. You can't remove the chakras out of your body. I mean, once again, I haven't done the research on it yet, so I'm going to get more into this. I'm going to look at it. But just at first glance, in my opinion, why would you want to get rid of these energy centers that can be used to your benefit? Now, if someone's telling you that they're dangerous and it's some alien agenda and all that, then, you know, I get why people might be a little fearful of that. But there's a good chance that we're not even from this planet, and that we're technically fucking the alien agenda that they're talking about. And that's why we have these centers, and that's why we have these powers. That's why the planets that are out there, you know, in the universe, you know, extraterrestrial ET aliens, right, come from outside of our planet. Well, those planets, I'm just describing you what the chakras are, they're outside of our atmosphere. So what makes you think that we aren't some type of extraterrestrial that comes from out there? Because if we have 7 planets up there that match the 7 energies in our body, well, would that make us like these little gods walking around? with these 7 planetary energies within our body. And why wouldn't you want to harness that? Why wouldn't you want to use that to empower yourself and say, no, I got to get rid of these fucking chakras? It's like, well, if you get rid of those chakras, what are you going to be? How much power are you going to have? You're going to have anything. What if these things are the source of your power? You know what I mean? What if the reason you can do things is because you've got Jupiter and Mars and Venus and Mercury and the moon and the sun? My God, the sun is like so powerful, man. You know? What if it's because you have these energies in you? Who did I forget? Mars, Mercury, Sun. I mean, you got the Neptune, Pluto's, and Uranus too as well in you. But I stick to the 7 because if I don't completely understand the 7, then why would I add 3 more to that? You know. But you know, Zeus, Aphrodite, Kronos, Aries. I mean, these are powerful things. This is why we have all these mythologies with the same 7 that overlap each other. That's why our movies describe it, is because these 7, that's why the days of the week are there. They're there to explain to you that these 7 energies, these 7 days of the week, are honoring these 7 planets in the sky, the same 7 energies in your body. It's so powerful. And to say that you need to remove that, it's like people got you all kinds of confused. I'm gonna play something from Thunderwizard right now. It's an old video about him explaining the reptilian deception, about David Icke potentially. He says everything he's saying is correct, but the reptilians aren't actual shapeshifters in the physical body. It's not like the queen is a reptilian who can change into a human and back to a reptilian. But what it is they are in a different dimension. And I think that's correct, but I don't necessarily agree on the reality of it, meaning there is reptilians and there is a bunch of reptilians in another dimension, but I think it's because we created it. I think somebody wrote it in a book, therefore gave it power, and the more people that know and believe that, it's more real. But I think we can do without that shit. I don't think we need to focus on reptilians at all, or any other ETs. I think we have so much we should be focusing on already that empowers us, that to focus on all these extras that might be possible but might not be possible and really doesn't do you any good. It's just silly if you don't understand your own body, your own energies, and how to get stuff in your subconscious mind. Focusing on anything else other than that, whether it's to blame it why you can't do something or not, it's just stupid, you know. And it's not anybody's fault. Like, I did it too. I think you have to go through this fear-based media stage, and it's different for everybody. You know how long that takes. I think you have to be scared into spirituality, because you got to realize ultimately that, you know, you can either give it up, you get so scared that you go back to God or Jesus, or you stick it out and you realize that it's really not as scary as they're making it. And that's what that thing is for. That's what that information is for. It's to scare you out of doing it. I mean, if a bunch of people stop associating with their chakras and start believing they removed their chakras, what do you think's gonna happen, man? I mean, these things are connected to important glands in your body. The one around the throat, whether it's the thyroid or something else. I'm gonna look this up to get it right for you. But most people, by the time they're like whatever age when they die, so anywhere from 60 to 80, I think it was, the thing is so small and shriveled up, and it's what causes them to die. And that's associated with either the throat or the heart chakra. I can't remember which one. That gland is all shriveled up and dead. And another one that comes to mind is this one here that gets all calcified and shit like that. For people not using it or whatever the case is. Once again, you don't have to use that to start spirituality. That thing releases DMT when you're sleeping, and it helps whenever you meditate and all that, but if you have that open when you're physically awake in the 3D, it's not like things are going to happen for you. You have to be in that right state of mind to do stuff like that. Now, is there a correlation with people with their third eyes open and people being able to visualize stuff? Like, I can imagine things like they're right here. I can see things like they're right here. Like, as a kid, I could sing on stage, pretend I was performing in my bedroom. My bedroom was a concert. Like, I could see all that. I could have conversations with people like it was nothing. You know what I mean? I could visualize shit like that. But I had trouble calming myself. I had trouble I had attention deficit disorder. So I could visualize the shit out of everything, but I couldn't. When I started having to meditate, it was fucking hard as fuck. And I think it's Fredo Xavier that says people normally have one or the other. They normally have the discipline to be able to meditate, or they're able to visualize shit, but they can't slow down their mind to actually, implement it in a smart way or whatever the case is. So it does become kind of a challenge. And I don't know if that's connected to having your third eye open, if you're able to visualize. I do know, I'm pretty positive anyways, that if you can't dream at night, well, start keeping your dream journal and stuff like that, but I think that has to do with your pineal gland, your pituitary gland, all that. And like I said, it wasn't until, I was doing the reverse osmosis. I was doing everything that the new agey sites told me to do to decalcify my pineal gland. Nothing was happening. If anything, the more I watched videos on how to calcify your pineal gland, all I was doing was, that title was telling my mind that my pineal gland was calcified. That's basic NLP. That's basic fucking analog marking. That's basic fucking little tactics to do things. Here, I'm going to help you how to decalcify your pineal gland. So what happens is they're just telling you your pineal gland's calcified. They give you a bunch of remedies for it, but the more you watch it like that, the more you believe your fucking pineal gland is calcified, the more it's calcified. It wasn't until I started raising the chrismoid that I started having these profound things happen. Like I said, do a meditation, I'd see this vision. And I say vision, I'm using that very loosely, that term. So it wasn't this big grandiose thing and I went convulsive, started convulsing and all that, but it's almost like you start going into the sleep, but then you remember, holy fuck, I'm meditating, okay, I gotta bring it back. But then you get these visions every time you kind of space out. And I saw this thing and I was like, oh, that's fucking cool, what was that? And then I put on a video by an Australian, fuck's his name. I can't remember, but and then that thing was in the video, and it was a super important part that I ended up making a whole video about. So, is that your pineal gland decalcified? Absolutely, because I'm awake, yet I'm dreaming. You can say, well, how's that possible? Well, it's DMT release. It's got to be. I mean, how do you dream while you're awake? How do you see things while you're awake? Unless you take hallucinogens, but the rest is pretty impossible. And this is such a simple process. The more you start meditating, it's just going to start happening. But once again, I know a lot of people want an excuse for why they can't do the things people are talking about. And a lot of things people are talking about are just there to make you feel like you need a reason to not be able to do this shit. It's terrible. And that's why I think there's people like me, there's people like Thunderwizard who are on a whole different level than me, and people like Fredo Xavier and Birch that are on a whole different level again, that are trying to demystify this stuff and call out the fakes and the frauds that are trying to tell you that, you have to do all this shit, whatever else. Wow, it's just silly. But once again, I didn't look into any of that stuff yet, so I'm gonna look into it. I'll give it a fair chance, and I'm gonna see what's what. Now, I looked into targeted individuals, and I looked into implants and all that. And I come to find out, about the targeted individual anyways, that as much as I thought I was being targeted at one point, pretty positive it was just my mind doing it to me. It's one of those things that if you start putting your focused energy into being a targeted individual, things will happen and line up that you want. I really think it comes back down to what you focus on expands. Meaning, if you were focusing on becoming rich, then that will happen. If you're focusing on the fact that you think you're being targeted, then that will happen. And do I think there's truth to people being targeted, people being watched? Absolutely. I mean, as an ex-criminal, my phones were tapped. The cops were following me everywhere. They busted into my house just a half an hour before I got rid of the fucking 50 grand that was there. And they tore my house apart looking for it. They kept saying, we know it's here. I was in custody, and my girlfriend and her sister were locked up like two criminals on the fucking curb outside of my house for all my neighbors to see at this time, which is still the neighborhood I live in now today, so most people think I'm doing something wrong, and I'm not, but I was in custody, and they didn't find shit, and they had to release me. And then, out of spite, they left my house like a fucking mess. It's like, whatever, you win some, you lose some. I get it. I wasn't even there to act like a cocky prick, which I would have been. But it's like, you can't even help clean up, that would be okay to help clean up, but you're not even trying to help. You're just straight up leaving it a fucking mess, you pricks. Anyways, it's 8:17 right now. I'll put this video by Thunderwizard, I'll come finish this on after, but my wife's about to start work, and she might be a little upset that I'm not home right now, so. But anyways, not saying that these things aren't real. I can't know. I think everything that is out there has a bit of truth to it, because nothing is all just fake and nothing is all just real. It's a mix, and people's minds can make things real. Therefore, if there's a whole crowd of people out there that think they're targeted individuals, then there's going to be some of them that might be targeted individuals because they might be doing something illegal, and they might be doing whatever the case is. But for the most part, our minds create thought forms. As a magician, it's one of the most powerful fucking things you can do. You can create a thought form that do anything for you. So if a bunch of people are putting focused energy and fear into something, then yeah, there's a thought form watching you right now. You guys program this thought form to watch you, to make you feel like you're being watched. It might even make sounds happen and weird things happen, and all these little things that you read, like, oh, here's how you know if you're a targeted individual. Well, these are all the things that thought form is going to do. Your mind is that powerful. You can create thought forms. We do it often. Part of my Kabbalah Great Work of Self-Transformation, all the banishings and all that, is, I don't like to say this too much because I don't want people getting into it just for that, and people with what thought forms or being scared of it, but part of doing this shit is to get rid of all these thought forms you've created your entire life. It does. All the banishings, get rid of it. All these thought forms. And it's one of these reasons that it's easier to reprogram your mind, because you have these thought forms you created over and over again that are helping you keep the same programming. So if you think you're never going to be broke, never going to be rich, then you have this thought form beside you. Every time you get a nice thought of, hey, maybe I'll win some money today, it's like, no, you know, with your past experiences, the whole reason you created me was because you never get money. My job here is to make sure you never get money. It keeps whispering that shit in your ear. And that's just a way of thinking about it. None of us know what these thought forms look like and how they actually act. Well, I mean, I think people that can see spirits or whatever, I think they're actually seeing thought forms that people created, and that's why they can help someone when they see their grandmother beside them. You know, that's their grandmother they created. They feel sad and mad that they never got to say goodbye or tell them they were sorry. So they create the image, all the programming they know. That's why the spirit beside them knows everything their grandmother knows. That's why the person can be like, well, if it's really my dead mother, then, or dead grandmother, can you tell me what her eyes color was? And she can tell them. Can you tell her what she did for a living? Well, it's because that person knows all the stuff about her grandmother, and she put that into that thought form. So the person that can see these energies, see these entities, can read that thought form. That's what I think. That's just my opinion, but that's what I think. And then once she allows that person to let go of the thought form, say your mom doesn't care, she loves you, she's in a better place now, that person gets some relief. And then instead of holding on to that fear created in that thought form, she feels love and happiness, and she lets the being go. I'm not convinced that that's not what our ghosts are, our hauntings are. I'm not convinced. I mean, I know there's other things out there like elemental spirits and shit like that. That's something I believe is different. Just like planetary energies are different. But I think the vast majority of the things we do and the things we put power into is thought forms. Right? If you, in a bunch of groups, there's something to say about number and power, or power and numbers, more people thinking the same fucking thing and putting love or fear energy into the same thing, and then going out there and taking action and talking about it and showing people proof online. You're adding action to thought and putting emotion into it. You're creating a thought form that is real. You made it real. So it's real in a manner of speaking, but it wasn't real until you guys made it real, is what I think. And I don't know if I'll be able to be swayed from that or not, but it's just, that's what I ended up coming to when I was looking into it. That was what I ended up figuring out, was that we have the power to create thought forms. So I went from this state of victimhood and thinking that nothing longer worked for me because anything I did, I was targeted, I had these implants in me, I couldn't do nothing. And then I think someone at him actually said to do ceremonial magic or witchcraft to break it or something like that. So that's when I started looking into something. That the point is, when I realized that thought forms were like everything, and basically any kind of magic basically is creating a thought form, wow, that was just eye-opening. Because yeah, I mean, it's insane. The things you can do with a thought form, you can create a thought form for anything. To go get your money, to get you to protect your family, I've got some just to protect me from COVID. I got some that bring me money on all my different, because all wealthy people have multiple revenue streams, multiple incomes. So for every one of my incomes, I have a thought form making sure there's always people added or people seeing what I have to offer. And to me, it works better than advertising. So, and like, I don't get attacked or nothing. Like, I see all these magicians out there talking about people attacking them and stuff like that. And I have a few videos where I thought I was attacked and things happening. Like, my computers get wonky sometimes and all that, and my phone acts up on me. And I used to not be able to create episodes, and now it's like I don't have a problem at all anymore. At all. And I have all these thought forms protecting me. Like I said, I got armies of thought forms. I use that. That's one of my, to go back to the beginning, one of my spiritual practices for when it's that time of month when I shouldn't have sex, when I'm raising the prism oil, when the moon is in my sun sign. One of the Marsarian energies, because Mars energy, you know, especially being a guy, we like war, we like fighting. So one of my practices is to create thought forms that will protect me and my family. And I make them some fucking crazy soldier motherfuckers, man. I use as much Mars energy as I fucking can and make these guys so badass to protect my family. I make a new one every time I do this. Well, not every time, but that's how the harmony, I mean, that was the initial process. I used that, and then I got so into it that even after my moon sign was already, or my moon was already out of my sun sign, even after that happened, I just kept going until I had like 10 soldiers that were thought forms, and then those were like the snipers on the roof. And then I decided to create infiltrate. If you can't snipe, somebody managed to get by a sniper, and then I need some infantry that no one can see. And then it wasn't long after this I came up with the idea of having a decoy in my house, a big egregore that, you know, let's say someone else's thought form sees it. Well, they're gonna go after that guy, and he's just a decoy, and there's another one that'll come and fucking mangle them up. These are the last line of defense in my house. Actually, that's not true. Last line of defense are all my wards, all my magical things. And see, this is something else that's better to put your ideas into. But at the same sense, the same thing can happen. If you're continuously worried about protecting yourself and think you're under attack, you're going to make yourself attacked. Your own mind is going to create the circumstances to you because you're focusing on it constantly.
Hi, this is Michael William Denny of ThunderShamanism.com. So today, this is going to be a really exciting video. I'm really looking forward to sharing this information with you. Today we're going to be talking again about the global conspiracy of the Reptilians. And I'm going to reveal to you information that maybe some of you have intuited, but I'm gonna, you know, here's the thing about the Reptilian conspiracy. The information that's being presented to us through people like David Icke and others is actually very true. But the problem is that their understanding about it is incomplete. And so if the information is not complete, then you don't know what actions are necessary for you to take. So this is why it's important that a shaman interprets this information. Because here's something that we need to understand about the Reptilians and their world and ours. And this is something that shamans have known, you know, throughout the centuries in all cultures. Shamans know
real fast. I love this video. It's going to teach you a lot of things. But if you think you need to become a shaman or anything like that, I think the word shaman he's using there could be a witch, it could be a magical practitioner, anybody who has the eyes to see and the ears to hear. It's not necessarily just has to be a shaman. But the use of the word shaman is definitely accurate here that he's using, is somebody who is, you know, who can interpret this correctly, because yeah, he's not wrong. And somebody like David Icke might be or could be a magical practitioner, a shaman, something to that effect. So that's why he's getting these downloads and getting this information. But if he's got programming within him, then it comes out through that nervous system, that programming that he understands. So he's going to give it to you in the lens of, let's say it's Christian programming, he's going to give it to you in the lens of, okay, well, the devil is really the reptilians, and they're bad, and they're among us, and everything that he's ever been taught that the devil can do. Well, he's going to give those attributes to reptilians. And I'm not saying that's what's happening with David Icke or anybody else. I'm just saying that that's how it plays out. So when he says you need a shaman to interpret it, it's basically, and this is just my opinion, but somebody who's in a depolarized state who can actually explain it to you without having, you know, emotional attachment to it, without trying to say these guys are bad, you need to do the opposite, because that's not the case. I mean, there's useful information you can get from the reptilians, and you can literally talk to the reptilians and get their opinion on how to not be swayed by them. And before you say, well, that's not true, you can't fucking do that, it's like, okay, go read the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. And in that book, he has a conversation with a quote-unquote devil who, and yeah, sorry, my wife just said I need to do a candle for something. That's how much she's coming around. Anyways, in that book, he has a conversation with quote-unquote the devil, and in there, the devil explains it's not a man, but a pitchfork and a spiked tongue and a fucking tail that's like a spade that can stab people, and living on the other side waiting for you to come to hell. He's the negative part of the atom, which I think is accurate but also inaccurate at the same time, because once again, Napoleon Hill was assuming the devil was a bad guy, and in this interview the devil actually gives you quite a bit of good information on how to beat his tactics. So he interpreted this information from the quote-unquote devil, probably from a meditative state, and then gave it to the world. But is it actually the devil he's speaking to? Well, who the fuck knows? Obviously it's not, but he got good information. So he was the shaman or witch or magical practitioner, the channel which the information came through. But it's still a polarizing view nonetheless, but it is one that could help you, and because it teaches you quite a bit. Point is, anybody can intuit this information, but if you haven't got rid of programming that makes you see only good or bad, then you're going to deliver your information like that and help polarize people more and not necessarily help them. So when he's, Michael Denny, Thunderwizard, Mahat David, is saying, you know, you need a shaman to interpret it, I think he's right. But I think that shaman word could be more broad as to any kind of person who can channel without associating with one of those sides. Present the information to you from a depolarized state, and this way you can see all the aspects.
About it is incomplete. And so if the information is not complete, then you don't know what actions are necessary for you to take. So this is why it's important that a shaman interprets this information. Because here's something that we need to understand about the reptilians and their world and ours. And this is something that shamans have known, you know, throughout the centuries in all cultures. Shamans know that there are multiple dimensions that are overlapping each other all the time. And that the dimension that we live in here is sort of like a kaleidoscope where we're able to tune in other dimensions and either bring those aspects of that dimension into our world, we're able to go into their world and vice versa. But those dimensions need us in order to access our dimension. Otherwise, they're stuck in their dimension. And they try to influence us in all kinds of ways. The celestial masters, they try to influence us from their dimension. The reptilians have their own dimension that overlaps ours. And they, not only do they try to influence us, but they actually try to trap us in their dimension and then use us as vehicles. Now here's the part that a lot of people don't understand about the reptilians. You know, you hear about the reptilian shapeshifters. This is absolutely correct. But what people seem to think is that there's these reptilians who are pretending to be humans. But that's not how it works. The reptilians use humans as hosts. And those human hosts are completely, totally unaware that they're being used as hosts for the reptilians. So that's how the reptilians get into our dimension and influence us. But they do it in concert with us. And it's only if we are operating from their dimension. And so their whole agenda is to get us completely tuned in to their dimension only and to operate from their dimension. And today I'm going to spell out for you exactly what that is and how that works. Well, first let's talk about the fourfold reptilian conspiracy. We've talked about We've talked about this before, but very briefly, here's how it goes. The Reptilian Conspiracy starts with, first, number one, they want to destroy your divine human identity. The second level of the agenda is to prevent you from being able to protect yourself. And this will be very important because you see, if you don't have a strong aura, if you don't have a strong sense of self, this third dimension, which we're going to talk about today, this third part of the agenda is where the majority of people get stuck. The third part of the agenda is they want to keep you trapped in fear. Because if they can keep you trapped in fear, that's the vibration of their realm. That's the vibration of their dimension. That's fear brings you right into, you know, the vibration of them, and then they can influence you. They still have to get you to concede and be a part of it, and this happens on an unconscious level. We'll explain that. But when that happens and you're trapped in fear, then you're trapped in one part of your brain, which is called the amygdala. And we're going to talk about exactly how they get to the amygdala and how they get to you. I'm also going to tell you exactly what the human's relationship to the reptilians are, because we have a relationship. We have an ancient relationship going back to the dawn of the human race. The fourth aspect of their agenda is to keep you from achieving complete enlightenment. But if they can get you, and this is where they get most people, they get you at number 3, which is to keep you trapped in fear, they never have to worry about number 4. So, today I'm going to talk to you about exactly how that happens, and the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to read some excerpts from the book The Way of the Shaman by Michael Harner. So feel free to get that book. It's very enlightening. It helps you understand how shamans have always been able to receive information from the divine and then be able to translate it in real terms for human beings. So that's going to be what I'm going to try to do here for you today. So this is from the first chapter of his book. And if you don't know anything about him, he was an atheist or an agnostic. I'm not sure which. He was an anthropologist, and he was down in South America studying the Aboriginal tribes, the native tribes in South America. And so he took some ayahuasca under the guidance of a master shaman. Very important. If you're ever going to do that, you have to make sure you have the guidance of a master shaman. Otherwise, you'll see why. You can get yourself in some serious trouble. So I'm just going to go ahead and read to you the most salient parts about the reptilians, their realm, and how they became connected to us, how they control us and influence us. So, all right, so let's see here. Now, he's just entered into an altered state of consciousness, and here we go. As my eyes seemed to adjust to the gloom, the moving scene resolved itself into something resembling a huge funhouse, a supernatural carnival of demons. In the center, presiding over the activities and looking directly at me, was a gigantic, grinning crocodilian head, from whose cavernous jaws gushed a torrential flood of water. Slowly the waters rose, and so did the canopy above them, until the scene was metamorphosed into a complete duality of blue sky above and sea below. All creatures had vanished. Later on he says, I became aware of my brain. I felt physically that it had become compartmentalized into 4 separate and distinct levels. At the uppermost surface was the observer and commander, which was conscious of the condition of my body and was responsible for the attempt to keep my heart going. It perceived, but purely as a spectator, the visions emanating from what seemed to be the nether portions of my brain immediately.
All right, guys, I'm in my super sick car and I'm at my super sick mansion, and then, oh wait, I'm in an alley in Pittsburgh getting out of.
Immediately below the topmost level, I felt a numbed layer, which seemed to have been put out of commission by the drug. It just wasn't there. Now I was virtually certain I was about to die. As I tried to accept my fate, an even lower portion of my brain began to transmit more visions and information. I was told that this new material was being presented to me because I was dying and therefore safe to receive these revelations. These were the secrets reserved for the dying and the dead, I was informed. I could only very dimly perceive the givers of these thoughts. Giant reptilian creatures reposing sluggishly at the lowermost depths of the back of my brain where it met the top of the spinal column. I could only vaguely see them in what seemed to be gloomy, dark depths. Then they projected a visual scene in front of me. First they showed me the planet Earth as it was eons ago, before there was any life on it. I saw an ocean, barren land, and a bright blue sky. Then black specks dropped from the sky by the hundreds and landed in front of me on the barren landscape. I could see that the specks were actually large, shiny black creatures with stubby pterodactyl-like wings and huge whale-like bodies. Their heads were not visible to me. They flopped down, utterly exhausted from their trip, resting for eons. They explained to me in kind of thought language that they were fleeing from something out in space. They had come to the planet Earth to escape their enemy. The creatures then showed me how they had created life on the planet in order to hide within the multitudinous forms and thus disguise their presence. I learned that the dragon-like creatures were thus inside of all forms of life, including man. They were the true masters of humanity and the entire planet, and they told me, we humans were but the receptacles and servants of these creatures. For this reason, they could speak to me now from within myself. So at this point, he becomes aware that he's about to die. And so he's able to ask for help in this realm to the shamans that are attending him. And they give him an antidote. And the antidote works and it brings him back. So he tries to make sense of this, and first he goes and he talks to a Christian, and they give him their understanding of the devil and hell and all that other stuff. And then he goes back to the shaman. I was now eager to solicit a professional opinion from the most supernaturally knowledgeable of the Indians, a blind shaman who had made many excursions into the spirit world with the aid of the ayahuasca drink. It seemed only proper that a blind man might be able to be my guide to the world of darkness. He said, there were these giant black animals, something like great bats, longer than the length of this house, who said that they were the true masters of the world. And then he stared up toward me with his sightless eyes and said with a grin, oh, they're always saying that, but they are only the masters of outer darkness. So, this is the realm of the reptilians. Now, we hear about people talking about reptilians, shapeshifters, and all that. We are the vehicles through which the reptilians express themselves. And here's what's interesting to understand. Now, the question to ask is, who were they fleeing from? Remember, this is happening on a different plane of reality. So the reptilians arrived here in their plane of reality. The Earth is able, there's access to all different levels of reality on this Earth. So they're coming from their level of reality. But who are they fleeing from? And here's the plan for human beings. They're fleeing from the celestial beings, the celestial masters, the gods, as we would call them. And the gods sent them here to this Earth. Now, the reptilians think that they're escaping, and the reptilians think that they created human beings in order to use them and to serve them. But in reality, it's the celestial beings that are using them to create human beings, and we are to rise above that. But we are to use their power. The reptilians are very powerful. And so from them we learn the basics of power. And we're meant to use that power to then rise above and become ascended masters, gods, celestial beings in human form. But before we do that, we have to pass this test. And this test is getting stuck in the amygdala. So remember he talked about that this was in the lower part of his brain? Well, it's called the reptilian brain for a reason. So anyway, listen, we could go on and on. I may make other videos about it, but that's it for now. Listen, if you like this channel, please go ahead and contribute. If you can't see the little thing above, look below. It says contribute to this channel. You can also help this channel by subscribing, liking, sharing it with your friends. Get as many people as you can interested in this channel. The more subscribers that I get to this channel, the more ability I'm going to have to be able to spend all of my time doing my teaching over video. You know, people have been asking me to teach stuff for free. Listen, if you want me to teach for free, then we got to make this channel huge. So I need your help to do that. So anyway, that's it for now. Stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more coming.
Alright, what's going on? So, I'm not going to add to Thunderwizard's video because he did a good job explaining that, I think. And I think I said enough about basically the facts and what I wanted to get to and what I wanted to speak about, basically. Because when it comes to removing the chakras, these chakras are associated with planets. The planets are associated with gods, deities. The Greek deities became the Roman deities, but you know, technically, if you really go down to it, Norse mythology is probably older than most of these other ones. Thor, Odin, all that shit. I mean, that's old. That's old as fuck. Like 3000 BC, man. You know? So, and you can argue that Greek might have been around the same time too. Zoroastrian, you know, the one from, fuck, what's the name of it? Anyways. Parts in Arabia anyways, but Zoroastrian is fucking, what's it called? Fuck, I can't think of the name. Anyways, but all these gods and deities, Christianity turned into demons, you know. Astaroth, okay, is, well, some people think it's a demon, all right? But it comes from Astarte. Astarte comes from Iona or Venus or Aphrodite. You know, it's the same thing. And, you know, you don't even have to go that far to find out that they tried to fuck with Venus and turn her into a demon. Not only is Astaroth from Astarte and Iona and all that turned into fucking a demon, but Lucifer Morningstar is Venus. It's the first star that comes out as the sun is setting at night. You can see it. Mars, you can see... Anyways, I'm not going to get into astronomy because, you know, astronomy is great. Seeing the stars is great. Using astrology as well, in coordination with astrology, when the stars are in the sky, it's great. But they turned Venus, a female planet, you know, with female energies. Not that she's a female, but, you know, both polarities to all these planets, you know. So they have to balance them, their energies. But turned it into the devil, okay? And the devil is actually Mars. So Lucifer is the Venus version of the devil. The devil is the Mars version of the devil, and Satan is the Saturn version of the devil. So this fallen angel called Lucifer, well, Lucifer Morningstar is the fucking first star in the sky of Venus. So my point is when and this is just at first glance, and once again, I'm making this video before I could look into all this information that this person who commented on my channel, just so, you know, I want to show if there's something there that I think is legit. Well, I'm going to show you before and after, and if I have to apologize and redact and say what I said is wrong, I'm a big enough person to do that. And I want to show that there's nothing wrong with doing that and apologizing if you're wrong. And I do it all the time with my kids, and I believe it's important to do with your kids. You know, if you yell at your kids, you find out your kid's not lying to you. The best thing you can do is show your kid that, you know what, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I feel really bad. You know, what can I do to make it up to you? You know what I mean? And you can say, well, that shows weakness, and, you know, there's still a lesson there to be learned, and they should still respect you. Yeah, but they're going to respect you a whole lot more if you apologize when you're wrong. So I kind of want to show that. So if there is something here that I disagree with right now, and then after I look at it and agree with, well, then so be it, and I'll prove that. But at the same sense, I just want to have something, like I said, out of all the things that she mentioned, the chakra removal thing is one of the most, like I said, shocking, but I didn't mean shocking because it doesn't surprise me, and that's what I'm going to talk about, but it's a little disturbing. And I think I know, well, not know why, but what I like to think, what I am seeing, what's coming to me about that, what came to me today when I was thinking about it after I made the first part of this video. Now it's nighttime, as you can tell, but what came to me after doing the first part I just had on here prior to Thunderwizard was, well, Christianity got rid of all our ancestors, told us not to worship ancestors, worship the saints instead, turned our ancestors and connection to ancestors into demons. They turned the planets into demons, or devils, or whatever, the fallen angels, whatever. So they got rid of all our connections, and now there's this insurgence of New Age culture coming out, and, you know, Vedic, Hindu, chakra, mantra, fucking whatever you want to call all this different stuff. I think it's all different spiritualities, and New Age tries to incorporate it all with this, you know, sometimes vague, but sometimes depending on the person. There are some people that are considered some New Age that have a lot of great information and have a wealth of knowledge and know what spiritualities they're taking from. And there's other people that just think New Age spirituality is a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and they don't know where any of it come from. So that I don't really like so much. But I'm going to turn on a light before the fucking car turns off. But the point I'm trying to get at is this New Age thing happening, people connecting to their chakras, people in the church, whether they know it or not, they still might just think the planets and these deities are demons. And so by telling you to remove your chakras, that they're alien implants, or, you know, whatever the case is, it just reminds me of the same old things, like don't believe it, you know, depending on what the Bible is. I'm the only God, so don't believe in other gods or false gods or whatever. But I think the first one, or the closer to the real version, and who really knows what the real version is, but it's like, thou shalt not have other gods before me. And I mean, God admits there's other gods. You know what I mean? These are the other gods, but you shouldn't believe in any other god besides him. It's like, well, why are you so insecure? Why? What is that? And once again, this is what they're trying to get you to do. They're trying to get you to believe in the sun only, potentially Jupiter only, but, you know, one chakra. Well, you're not going to get to that one if you don't fucking rise it from the ground up. And you got to start with Satan, baby. Saturn. You got to start with him. Once you start with Saturn, you get this connection to the Earth Star chakra. And then you start being able to heal your body, start becoming balanced. It's easier to get information. You can channel things just by the thoughts you get. You know what I mean? That's a whole different story. I've went in detail on that kind of stuff. But the point is, to me, it sounds just like a bunch of fucking trying to get you to think these energies are demons and devils, and they get it out of you. But there's a reason that the big Jupiter, St. Paul, in fucking St. Paul fucking Square, or whatever it's called, at the Vatican, that's the fucking just Jupiter. You know, it's very astrological there. And they know this stuff. They use this stuff. They do ritual, but they want you to get rid of it. And, you know, you can say, well, no, the people I'm listening to are truthers and whatever and all that. It's like, maybe, and maybe a lot of them are legitimately trying to help people, but maybe they got skewed by, all I know is what I do. And like I said, I'm gonna look into this stuff, and I'll get a better definition of things, and I'll get a better opinion, and tell you exactly what comes to my mind about this stuff. If some of it I think is fraudulent or not fraudulent. Anybody wants to leave certain places where I could look that they think is good information, by all means, let me know. The person who left the comments already gave me a couple people's names that I have to go look up. So by all means, if you want to do that, just let it loose in the comments or send me whatever. I don't care. I'll look at it. But to me, it just sounds like, let's not have people connect to these powers, because if they do, they can literally change their life. And from there, if they get together, they can change the world. And this is happening on a pretty big scale. So, if people are trying to tell you that your chakras are, I don't know if that's tied to the alien implant or not. I was looking at alien implants, and it was on Higher Self channel, and the girl was saying she actually took an implant out of somebody and was showing this little thing or whatever. And I said, well, maybe that's possible. I don't know how I would have got it, but whatever. But the closest thing I got to that spiritually was cords, cutting cords. So I don't know, because I'm not going to lie, if I really focus, I can start seeing an aura, but I'm not completely convinced. That's not like you stare at something for a while and you start seeing like the outline of that thing, right? I mean, I use my peripheral vision when I'm scrying. I've used puddles before, but I use a black mug sometimes with just some water in it. I use a couple stones that I use. I made a few black mirrors, but the point of scrying is to use your peripheral vision. So you focus in a certain spot, and it's the vision outside of your peripheral that you get to see the stuff in. The visions in, the answers are. If you're doing evocation stuff, that's a whole different ball game. I won't even get into that. But so you can use that same thing, kind of see auras to start off with, and I don't know if that's a trick or not, or whatever the case is, so I don't really go into all that. However, I do think, if you think you have a cord onto you, if you've been watching certain New Age stuff, like I was, then they had these people who came out and fluffed up your aura and all that, and cut these cords and all that crap, and who knows, person felt better after and all that. So what I did was, in case that was a possibility, and because of me watching it and thinking it was a possibility, I did ritual, symbolic representations via candles, via a banishing board, via sigil, and I removed any cords that I may have had to parents, to anybody toxic. And so that's the closest thing that I know that could be, but it's still kind of wishy-washy, close to the implant thing. But, who knows, right? There's a lot of different technologies out there. There's a lot of different proofs for and against nanotechnology. I'm more likely to say there's such thing. Are they using it against us? Probably in some way, shape, or form. But you can't know. So I don't try to study things I can't know. I study the things that I can do to empower myself to protect myself against that stuff and my family. So that's a little bit about all that. And that's what I just really wanted to say was that, because even if there's a reptilian place, even if there is a reptilian dimension, doesn't mean you have to be a channel for them. And when Thunderwizard says they use us as channels to do their bidding, meaning they come here, if you allow them into your aura, which I completely agree with, by the way. This is my whole premise on why and how come we don't have to worry about COVID. Now, most of us have allowed things to affect us. A lot of people allow things into our aura so they don't have that line of defense. Most, probably shamans, witches, magicians, all these types of people that know the power of their aura will not allow anything in it, so they don't have to fucking worry about this shit. Your aura is connected to your magnetic field. So your heart makes a magnetic field. You have a heart chakra. Don't remove that shit if you want your aura to be strong enough to protect you, okay? Just keep that in mind. But he's banging on about all that stuff. And he's banging on about the whole reptilian thing. Now, the only thing I am not positive of is what came first. The reptilians in the dimension, or humans thinking there's a reptilian dimension, therefore creating it. Chicken and the egg. Doesn't matter which one came first. It is a real thing now. There is a dimension there, and anybody can tap into it, and these thought forms that were created can tap into people. But if you are at the level of the magician, potentially the shaman, definitely a witch, you understand thought forms, you cannot be affected by thought forms. You don't have to worry about these thought forms coming into you, unless there's a magical practitioner attacking you, or you decide to say fuck it and you start watching TV and all that, and you start, you know, whatever. But I mean, if you don't use it, you lose it. So I mean, just because you have become a magical practitioner doesn't mean you can just stop and be protected for the rest of your life. I mean, you got to continue at least your basic practices, your rituals. I mean, I do rituals every day. It's part of my curriculum. But that's what this stuff boils down to for me as of right now, before I do the research on these topics, before I do the research on the hive mind, which I think has to do with groupthink and collective consciousness and different things like that. Thunderwizard's newest video he came out with, he talked about something about a dome over every individual city, every individual country and shit like that. And that's the dome of everybody's consciousness. It's almost like a thought form dome that, you know, all the people within that city kind of think alike. But then you go to a different city and say, oh yeah, you don't act like that out here. No, this is how we do things out here, you know. Why, you know, down south versus up north, different traditions. That's why, you know, maybe slavery was popular in the south and not so much in the north. Those kind of ideas. But, and I think that's very much the case. So that was very interesting that he talked about that, and I think that has a lot to do with hive mind and all that. There's definitely a concept there, and here's the thing: if you are the magician, whether you think there's elites, Illuminatis, dark magicians out there using this knowledge, you can tap into this, because the hive mind is controlled through mainly polarity. Mainly polarity, meaning you get people for or against something. And this gets the hive mind reactive. And once they're reactive, you can control them, you can move them, either push or pull with either magnetic, you know, attraction or magnetic pushing away, you know. One side of the magnet will attract it, the other side of the magnet pushes away. So becoming depolarized is your best defense against that. And this is why it's part of my curriculum in the beginning, is what first thing you do. So that thing, there's some importance to that, and there's ways to break free from that by doing these things. A lot of it has to do with your own. So you watch something on TV, the suggestions get into your subconscious because it's symbolism and it has you in this trance-like state and all that. But then the things you get into your subconscious make you act in your life a certain way. So if it's, let's say it's a McDonald's commercial, well, it's gonna first manifest as an internal craving for McDonald's. And if you go through with that, then, you know, it's done, it manifests. If it doesn't, if it's something that can't, so if you're watching a show and it's showing you that people get cancer and die in disease, well, it's going to try to manifest internally. If it can't go internally, let's say, you know, you're just too healthy for it, you don't believe that can happen, there's something there that stops it, okay, for whatever reason, well, then it's going to try to go externally, which means it could come into your life like you watch it on the TV, meaning you can affect your loved ones. And you're going to keep watching that show, or you're going to keep going around seeing things, acting, you know, these things are going to keep playing out your life. So all I'm trying to say is that it tries to first go inside, then outside, but at the same time, the things you see on TV make you act and do things a specific way. For example, you watch a lot of love stories, like I used this example before. You watch a lot of romantic love comedy movies. Guy meets a girl, they fight, but then they end up getting together after they make up. Happy wife, happy life, house and car, kids. So you think you need that in your life, and you start doing things and thinking that's the goals you need to reach in your life, because you keep watching it on TV. So then you keep thinking you have to do it out here, and it just keeps perpetuating the circle. Well, I think that plays into hive mind, group think, and all that. We are programmed by that fucking TV, and the best thing you can do is turn the fucking thing off. But that's a personal choice for everybody to make individually. But so I'm gonna leave it at that for today. But I think what I was trying to say was I looked into those three aspects, those three things in my own path when I was going through my Saturn chakra opening stage. I went through all the fear-based media, and I didn't get stuck on anything. Instead of choosing a polarity either for or against, I decided to choose the middle polarity and balance it, and realize that, well, I'm neither for nor against any of these fucks. Even if there is an Illuminati evil group, or there is an NWO, or the Christians are trying to kill us, or There's none of these things. All these people are just allowing people to believe this to get us to enlightenment. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to live my life in fear. I'm ultimately just going to realize where Saturn puts a limit on me in my chart, and then I'm going to fucking find a way to appease Saturn. And my Saturn is in my house of marriage, hence all the problems I've been having lately and shit. But point is, you find out what the root chakra is attached to, and how you know, there's a lot of things I can help you out with that if you want. But ultimately, you got to get over polarity. You got to be, if you are still either for or against, or whatever the case is. I'm not saying to not have your own opinions about things. That's different. But you first got to look at things objectively. If you are just reactive, then your root chakra, you know, it's not really open yet. But once again, you don't necessarily have to have it open to do magic. It's just your magic's not going to be very balanced. But the point I'm trying to get at is, you open that bad boy by looking at fear-based media and realizing that all truths are nothing but half-truths. Just because they're trying to force something down your throat, like the TV used to do, and the church used to do, and people talking about the reptilian agenda are trying to do, all these people are trying to get you to believe what they want. Whether they're doing it on purpose to get you to not realize your power, or they're just trying to do it to get hits on their site and trying to make a living, it doesn't matter. You look at it, you look at it, you watch it, and you realize, no, I'm not putting my energy into that. Because I know that's not how this world is. And, you know, you move up, and then you got to work on your creativity. Sexual energies. Are you sexually repressed? Do you have sexual issues? Do you have art issues? Do you not have a hobby? Do you have no creative hobbies you don't like doing? Is there anything like that you can start doing? And then you start looking at the subconscious mind in relation with that. It's not the subconscious mind, but it is connected there. But anyways, I'm going to leave it at that for today. I'm going to go in and put this video up online, and I hope you all enjoyed it. And I hope you all have a great fucking day. Show me which out, bitch. That's stupid. I shouldn't say shit like that.